the thing about Fetterman is that he's intellectually consistent. I mean, he may make medical history the first person I know that had a stroke and came back smarter, but he's, but he.
Welcome to Real Clear Politics on SiriusXM for Thursday, October 16th. I'm Andrew Walworth. Joining me are RCP President and co-founder Tom Bevan and Washington Bureau Chief Carl Cannon. So tonight, guys, in just a few hours, the three candidates for New York City mayor are going to face off on stage. Yesterday, Mamdani was interviewed on Fox News talking to Martha McCallum. Here's just a little bit of their exchange.
And I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who is ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I am going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington, D.C., but anyone across this country.
You called the police force racist, said they were a major threat to public safety, called them wicked and corrupt. And now the report that you apologized to 24 members of the NYPD. What did you say to them?
I apologized for the language that I used, and I spoke to them about the fact that I want to work with them to deliver public safety. Because what we're seeing in the city right now is we're asking officers to do nearly everything we can think of.
So, Tom, he broke the fourth wall there. He talked directly to the president. He also said a few things about Gaza, which got some attention. But overall, what do you make of the interview, and what will you be looking for at tonight's debate?
Well, look, I mean, I thought it was interesting that he went on Fox News. That's not, going to be an easy interview. Martha McCallum is a real pro, and she, I think presented him with some tough but fair questions. And some of them, you're right, he didn't answer. She asked him about, Hamas, should they lay down their weapons? And he said, I want New York to be affordable. It was kind of like, what? And then he said, I have no opinions about the future of Hamas. He has made Trump a central part of his campaign, fighting Trump. So for him to look into the camera, and I mean, it's a well-rehearsed line, obviously, which dings both the current mayor and Andrew Cuomo. Look, he is a very slick, I think, telegenic guy who's got his script and he's sticking to it. I expect more of the same from him tonight. He gives as good as he gets. When he was on stage in the Democratic primary, he ripped Andrew Cuomo a couple of times, and so I expect more of the same from him. Look, I don't see this race moving. It might be tightening a little bit, but he is still the overwhelming favorite to win this race in just a few weeks.
Yeah. Carl, Trump said about Mamdani, he said, he's not a socialist, he's a communist. There's a big difference. He's down and dirty. He's a communist.
Well, he may be. The Democratic Socialists of America is a very left-wing organization, and communist isn't a word we even use that much anymore because we use it in the context of China, but supposedly Russia is not a communist country anymore. I don't know what you call it, but he's a very left-wing guy, and he's in no way qualified to be mayor of New York. He's going to be the mayor of New York. And so people are taking his measure. And I think that's what New Yorkers will do tonight. The president is not far from the mark. The things that Mamdani has said about Israel would, in a previous, 5 years ago would have disqualified him, 10 years ago would have disqualified him from any office. The Democratic Party has wavered on supporting Israel. And, what we've seen the last 2 years is this odd support for a terrorist group, Hamas, designated as a terrorist group by the United States government. That's not me saying that. And he says he has no opinion on it, but he's expressed plenty of opinions in the past. And basically, you can parse his opinions, and he's never really said that the Jewish state even has a right to existence. So I think this is, in a way, it's a fraught moment. The other way, people say that if this guy's the face of the Democratic Party, they're in trouble. I'm not so sure about that. Tom said he's slick. That's right. But he seems uncommonly talented politically. He's charismatic. He's smart. And he's so young. His youth, in my mind, disqualifies him from serious consideration would have before this. But young people in their early 30s are often changing their mind. The term of art that we use, right, is evolving, but that's fair. He's, he's going to, if he's really apologized to these 24 policemen in New York, that's a good start. So he's a fascinating person. And, in the old days when journalists were less partisan and less ideological, we just say, this guy's a hell of a story.
Can I just add real quick,
sure.
Andy? He is very talented. I think that's obvious, and he's very good at social media and all of that, and puts the best face on socialism/communism that you can, in terms of totally revamping his previous positions. But it is nice when you have the help of the media, right? It is nice when the media, and these two paragraphs from the New York Times. This is Maya King. This is a news story, and it's about his interview on Fox. And here's what Maya King wrote. Since Mr. Mamdani's rapid rise to the top of New York City politics, Fox has led a right-wing media effort to characterize him as an avatar of a Democratic Party grown too beholden to its factions on the far left. The network's contributors often point to his thin political experience, past comments about law enforcement, and proposals to increase taxes on New York's wealthiest residents as both disqualifying and dangerous to New York City, America's largest financial center. I mean, I laughed out loud when I read that. This is a right wing to say that he's part of the left, and that he doesn't really have much experience, and he wants to raise taxes. These are all facts. The absolute facts.
It's a right wing plot.
And now the New York Times is presenting this some sort of right wing plot to discredit the guy. I mean, let's just be honest about who he is and what he wants to do. And if that's what New York City decides to vote for, then they're going to get the mayor they deserve.
Yeah. He did say about Trump that he would give Trump credit for the peace efforts if they proved lasting. It was too early, he said, to give him any credit for anything.
And when is that? When does that become lasting?
Wait, Tom, before we blast that statement too hard, let me point out that's exactly what I said on this radio show. So
well, yes. But at least you gave him credit for bringing home 20 hostages.
It's a reasonable.
It's not a reasonable position to take.
You're not running for elected office, Carl, and up for election in 3 weeks.
You guys have developed instant amnesia. We all on this show pointed out that Hamas has no record of following through on their promises. That asking them to disarm seemed like a stretch. They're now going around Gaza shooting Palestinians. So I don't begrudge giving Donald Trump or anyone else credit for something they do well, but a little prudence on this peace agreement strikes me as what we should all engage in, and nothing to do with Trump or the Nobel Prize or anything else. This is an evil organization we're dealing with, and you're asking them to change.
I don't think that's why Mamdani.
I'm talking,
I don't think he thinks it's an evil organization, Carl.
And for Tom's benefit, when I said evil organization, I didn't mean the New York Times. I meant Hamas. So I make that clear.
That's it. What
Birds of a feather, Carl.
Yeah, you and Mamdani share this idea that. Okay, well, look, I want to talk about the debate for a minute. Is this just rope-a-dope time for him? I mean, does he just have to make no mistakes, try to get through this thing, not say anything new, controversial? And if he does that, then he coasts to the finish line.
I don't even think it's he can make mistakes. He just can't, commit Harry on stage. I mean, he's got so much leeway. He can say some stupid stuff tonight and probably get away with it. I don't think this is now. Obviously, it's every candidate. You want to get through a debate and get out of it with no car crash moments, and that's certainly going to be his objective. But I just don't. I don't feel like he's in danger unless he does something really catastrophically stupid.
Right. Which
again, we all just agreed he's a smart guy and he's pretty savvy and pretty quick on his feet. So I don't expect to see that happen.
So the polls still show him at about 46%. Is that the latest poll? Is that still right, Tom?
I think so. I'd have to double check.
So what's interesting about that, it's a 3-person race. He hasn't been over 50% in any poll. I've been around enough elections to know if Curtis Leawood dropped out, all of that vote isn't going to go to Andrew Cuomo, and but a majority of it might. So if Leawood dropped out tonight and endorsed Cuomo on stage, or vice versa, and I don't expect either of those things to happen, But he still hasn't. Mamdani still hasn't made the sale with 50% of the voters in New York. So there's always a chance for a bombshell, right?
There is.
He doesn't have to have 50% in a three-person race, Carl, right?
I said if one of them drops out, Tom.
Okay, well,
Right.
that's not going to happen, I don't think.
And all their names are on the ballots have been printed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the
So
name
Eric
appears
Adams
for
is still on the ballot, I believe.
Eric Adams is still on
Yeah.
the ballot. This word affordability that
What does that mean,
sort of
Andy?
the-
He keeps using
well,
that.
I think it's a really interesting word, and I think you'll be hearing it a lot more from Democrats.
Totally.
It's not framed as sort of lower your taxes. It's not framed as sort of fighting inflation. And it doesn't really sort of directly say government handout, even though that's a big part of what he's talking about. But it's a big part of the message. And I think they've hit on one of those magic words in politics. I think that's very appealing, isn't it? I want life to be more affordable. We all
Totally
want
agree.
that, right?
And it's
So
a
how
word
is so how is the mayor of New York going to make lower
Doesn't
the cost
matter.
of okay?
Carl, it doesn't matter. It's
We're
that
talking
he's
about his campaign.
affordability.
Look, and the reason this word is so effective is because it's not some bullshit gobbledygook slogan. It's a word that people they use in their everyday lives and they totally understand. Something's more affordable. I can afford it. They get it. It is very smart strategically to run a campaign on affordability because after years of high inflation and things being totally unaffordable. Now he would have to deliver on that, but as far as getting himself in a position to win election, it's an incredibly smart strategy.
It must test well in focus groups because every Democrat's using it.
Well,
Yeah,
Republicans are using it too,
Yeah.
Okay.
as they should.
I think it'll be a big word coming into the midterms. That's a pretty safe prediction on my part. But I think that the last thing I say on this is Curtis Sliwa, who is up there. He'll be on the stage tonight. People don't pay much attention to him, but he's perennial, and he seems to be enjoying himself. That's the one thing I'll say about him. He's playing with house money, it seems like, and he just has to get up there. And I don't know if that translates into anything statewide or in the broader Republican Party, but he's there and he's having a good time.
I mean, great. Curtis Sliwa gets to have a good time. Meanwhile, New York City is about to go, like he gets his 15 minutes of fame and one of the greatest cities in the world is going to suffer because of it. I mean, if he really cared about New York, he would have dropped out of this race and tried to help stave off. And I don't even know if that would have worked, quite honestly. Right. Mamdani still might win if he had dropped out. I think it's probably too late at this point, but yeah, at least, Curtis Sliwa gets to be on the debate stage and gets his 15 minutes of fame.
Tom, Axios reports today that Democrats are actually maneuvering to challenge one of their own in 2028. That would be Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. He dismissed the story in a text. He said that enjoy your clickbait was the way he put it, but it's pretty intriguing. He's certainly one of the most interesting and independent senators on either side of the aisle right now. Here's a little bit of him on News Nation last night when Bill O'Reilly asked him why he's a Democrat.
I really believe in calling balls and strikes, and I think I want to follow the truths. Why
aren't you an independent then?
Well, I mean, those are some independent thoughts, but overall, I mean, you have to pick one side, Republican,
Why?
Democrat. That's always been my party. And Bill, let me just say, it's like I'm the only Democrat in my family. I grew up in a conservative part of Pennsylvania, and I grew up and I know and I love people that voted for President Trump.
So, Tom, there you have it. His answer to why he's a Democrat, even though there's some long knives out for him. He's not up till 2028, but still pretty interesting story. And you put it on the front page today. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting. He votes with Democrats 96% of the time or 94% of the time. I mean, he is a Democrat, and he was sort of the progressive darling in that race. And then, he had this stroke, which sidelined him for a few months, and then he came. And then remember, he left office and he was like depressed and he went into treatment and came back and started saying things that Democrats don't like on certain issues, Israel in particular. I mean, he's been, and the thing about Fetterman is he just doesn't he seems to not care. I was going to say not give an F. He likes drinking liberal tears on some of the people come to him and he'll just be like, you know, get away. Like, I'm not changing my position. I mean, he's been pretty strong on Israel and a couple other things. I mean, he's one of the only 2 Democrats right now voting to end the government shutdown. He wants to see that, and he wants to negotiate for the ACA extensions, but he doesn't think the government should be shut down to do that. So on the issues where he's been at odds with Democrats, they've been pretty high profile, and suddenly he's on the chopping block. I mean, I think it's not the brightest plan in the world for Democrats to try and oust Fetterman and put in someone more progressive in a state that has voted for Trump 2 out of the last 3 cycles and was pretty close to the other one. So I'm not sure that's the best electoral strategy. But and look, maybe Fetterman will get to a point where if he doesn't have the traction within the left wing of his party and he thinks he's going to lose that he might become an independent. He might go right in, or he could, potentially go over to the Republicans. I mean, if that's they might even make a deal to, let him do that and not challenge him. So we'll see what happens. But he's one of the most singularly interesting person in our politics for a variety of reasons.
Carl, would the Democrats be wise to try to get rid of Fetterman?
I don't know that would be wise. He's very popular in that state. And when he ran and won his Senate race, he was compromised medically, as Tom pointed out, by his stroke. He could barely do the debate. He had taken to wearing, hoodies and sweat clothes. He was very idiosyncratic, and he was considered too left-wing. People forget this. It was 2 years ago, but he was considered, too far, too progressive for Pennsylvania Democrats, for working class, for Reagan Democrats. The thing about Fetterman is that he's intellectually consistent. He may make medical history the first person I know that had a stroke and came back smarter, but he's consistent. His position on the shutdown, every single Democrat in that chamber held that position very recently when Donald Trump, when Joe Biden was president, the Republicans shut it down. They didn't want shutdowns before, remember? And on Israel, his position has been the Democratic Party position since 1948. They've changed. He hasn't changed. So in a sense, I think Pennsylvania voters are still going to look at Fetterman as the guy they always knew. They voted for him for lieutenant governor. They voted for him for senator. I'm not sure he's alienated any Democrats, rank and file Democrats in that state, or if he has very few.
Well, his ratings are being.
And I think he's won over independents, and I think there are Republicans who vote for him. Yeah, he's not polling real well right now, but that's almost that's in a vacuum. He'd have a candidate, and one-on-one in Pennsylvania, I still think he'd be very formidable if he was running against a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah. The article said that there's a possibility he might not want to run again in 2028, that he's frustrated in Washington. He doesn't like it.
Well, it also implies he might want to run for president.
Exactly. One source said he might want to run for president, which every senator thinks he should be president, so I don't think there's any news there. But Tom, you alluded to this 94%. What's the Institute for Legislative Analysis, I think it's called. It's a conservative group. It's got ties to the Republican PACs, but it's in Pennsylvania, and they do say that Fetterman is the least Trump-aligned Democratic lawmaker in the state, with a ranking of just 6%. So therein, I'm just a little baffled by this idea that this is the guy that they think should be removed from office. It just seems to me strange.
It's the David Hogg strategy, right? He's, right. Look, the Democrats are going through a bit of a Tea Party moment where these are purity tests across the board, on issues like Israel and trans rights and all of these things. And if you're not on board, you risk being primaried. And he certainly has been, as I said, very outspoken and very unapologetic about it. He doesn't try and sugarcoat this stuff or hide it or thread the needle or do anything. And he tells hecklers to screw off. He tells them to go pound sand. I mean, it's great. It's refreshing in its own way to see someone who's just be able to speak their convictions clearly, and he's definitely, we just talked about how slick Mamdani is and how he's, able to rewrite his positions and sort of, wriggle his way through questions, and Fetterman, he doesn't do that, and B, he came into office like he wasn't even able to do that. I mean, the guy could barely, recovering from the stroke.
Right.
He didn't have the capacity to really, I think verbally do any sort of verbal gymnastics to get himself, and he's just continued that. I mean, he's an interesting guy, like I said, and certainly the most interesting Democrat right now. But like I said, I think it's a terrible strategy, but we'll see whether it pans out or not. I mean, the reason his polling, Carl, is he's not popular with Democrats in Pennsylvania so much. He's more popular with independents, and certainly Republicans are helping boost those numbers as well. But Republicans are not going to be the ones who vote him back into the office if he's challenged in a primary.
Right. Well, I want to talk about a different story here. These two 15-year-olds in the district who beat the former DOGE staffer, his name is Edward Korstein, during this car hijacking attempt this past August. These two kids were just sentenced. The boy got 12-month suspension. The girl
Probation.
got probation. I'm sorry. And the girl got a 9-month probation, suspended sentence. They are not to contact each other and not to come back to the district during this period. Korstein, who's just 19 himself, there were about 10 assailants involved in the attack. The rest, I guess, have not even been identified. He was left with a concussion and a broken nose. Carl, in your view, has justice been served here?
Well, the Republicans don't think so. They've been blasting the sentence. Caroline Leavitt weighed in, and I guess President Trump did too. But interestingly, the other victim in the crime, there was a woman. It was her car, and Korstein was a hero. He came to her defense, and he got her in the car, and she was able to lock the door. He didn't make it in the car, and they beat the hell out of him. They were cowards. He was brave, and she was not hurt. And she testified in this case. The minors aren't identified in the Washington Post where I read the coverage. I'm not even sure they were identified in court. It's because it was held in juvenile court, even though some people in the administration want to be tried in adult court. And the woman said, I'm a very religious person. And she looked at the two defendants and she said, I want you need to think before you act. If you don't, this is the kind of thing that happens. Whether they were chastened or not, I do not know. The judge made a point of saying, she didn't sugarcoat what had happened. She said, you basically terrorized a section of the city that night. But she explained that her role as a juvenile court judge, not an adult judge, is rehabilitation, not punishment. Mm-hmm. And that is the law. When I covered courts for years, it's a distinction we often forget about, but juvenile court's supposed to be have a whole different set of goals and priorities. And the answer to your question, Andy, from my standpoint, is that if these two kids who expressed remorse, their parents express some shock, if they go back to Maryland and become good students and atone and live straight lives and do well in life, it will have been a just sentence.
I mean, look, I have a couple thoughts. Number one, this is all well and good. Had the race has been reversed,
there is a racial dimension to it.
And the race has been reversed, and 10 white kids have beat up a black kid. Would this judge have shown the same sort of, and the prosecutor, by the way, because this is what the prosecutors recommended. I mean, the judge was doing what the prosecutors recommended, which was probation, not jail. And so would they have done the same thing? Would the prosecutors have recommended probation? Would the judge have granted it? I find that hard to believe. So I'm a little skeptical.
Tom, can I interject something there? We don't know about that, but what we do know is that the Democratic Party and the progressives on social media, and
they would have lost their mind.
The New York Times, they would have because they would have been agitating for long prison sentences.
Yeah, they would have wanted like the death penalty. The other thing about this too, and you guys alluded to this. So two 15-year-olds from Maryland in DC, 10:30 at night, running around doing God knows what. Like, why is that happening? You know, where are the parents? Where is the responsibility? I find that to be, you know, that's part of the problem. And we have that problem in Chicago too with social media. They'll do these, you know, flash mobs and people show up downtown and go crazy and you know, there's a level of responsibility that, you know, needs to take place. And should these folks have been tried as adults? I don't know, but I also don't know that. And Carl, I agree with you. You know, if these folks, if this puts them on the straight and narrow, great. It's going to be a storybook ending. I don't know that that's going to be the case. And if it's not, you know, what should happen? Should we just be letting 14, 15-year-olds who are coming downtown and terrorizing, you know, the people in Washington, D.C., do they just get to, you know, continue to do that? I mean, what happens?
But Tom, you're hitting on an interesting point, and that the counter argument to me is that, yeah, do they belong in jail? This judge didn't think so.
And by the way,
not,
the
and maybe
15-year-old
not.
boy, by the way, after he beat up Big Balls, went and robbed a gas station a little further up the street, was involved in that. So this was not just some sort of one-off, I made a bad decision. This was a.
What I was going to say is that the question, the criminal justice question here is whether this is a very visible case, if they had gotten jail time, would that have served as a deterrent to future cases? Because what you have is what you talked about, Tom, in Chicago, in Washington, here in Washington, a disproportionate, shocking amount of this crime is committed by teenagers. And if they know they're not going to get any punishment, any real punishment, are we just sort of society just saying this kind of behavior is okay? I think that's the argument on the other side.
I mean, the vast majority of carjackings in Chicago are by kids who are less than 16 years old. I mean, it's crazy. And so we've allowed this sort of permissiveness to creep in, and maybe the pendulum needs to swing in the other direction for a little bit to reestablish some boundaries and some you know,
I got to say, I mean, if you saw the pictures of course, after this attack, this was a carjacking. The female was in danger. Who knows what would have happened if he hadn't acted the way he did? So they were trying. So it's a carjacking. It's a beating. He ended up bloodied on the ground. I mean, it was a terrible crime. I do not think that a 9-month suspended sentence is enough to do the two things we're talking about here. It's not a deterrent. I mean, if you're a kid and you hear that, it's like, you know, who cares? And second of all, I don't think justice is being served. I don't think that's.
I totally agree. And by the way, let's remember, 80% of the people involved in this, 8 out of the 10 assailants, are still out free. They were never even identified. They're wandering the streets right now. So, I mean, what sort of justice is that?
Yeah. Right. So next, when we go on Megyn Kelly's show next, this is a 2-to-1 vote against me. I
think it'd be 3-to-1 with Megyn on this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more right after these words. Guys, President Trump confirmed that a covert CIA operation, and it's maybe not so covert anymore, is underway in Venezuela. He said it in the Oval Office yesterday. He said, we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control. New York Times reported Wednesday that in addition to the CIA, the U.S. military is planning its own possible escalation and, quote, is drawing up options for President Trump to consider, including strikes inside Venezuela. Carl, there have been 5 known strikes on boats. The most recent was on the 14th, killed 6 people on board, apparently. What's going on here? And are we about to embark on a serious war here?
Well, the first thing I'll say is we've talked about the boats before, and I've expressed great misgivings about just, you know, with a drone killing everybody on a boat when you don't know who they all are. I've learned since then, though, that the rationale is this, because normally the Coast Guard would interdict boats carrying drugs, because if these are drugs, and let's just stipulate for a moment that they are, but these boats, the Coast Guard can't catch these boats. These are drug smugglers' boats, highly souped up, you know, cigarette boats, speed boats that stripped down to their essence, and their only purpose out there is to, you know, run fentanyl and heroin and cocaine into the United States. having said that, the penalty for drug smuggling isn't death. It's not a capital crime. So there are many Americans, and I'm among them, who this makes us uneasy. In terms of president now upping the ante. So when he said that, he blurts this out. Yeah, the CIA is operating there, and I was struck by that. I thought, okay, what is this? Is this a psyop that President Trump is running on President Maduro, or is it one of the signs of dementia on the part of our president? Because you don't go around saying the CIA is about to operate in your country because you've gotten rid of the element of surprise. I don't know which it is, but we are, if you look at this, if we end up going to war in Venezuela, you'll look back on this. This is a steady escalation by the United States. Maduro's indicted for drug smuggling. Then we start bombing boats. Now the president is talking about operations in country. And we talked about that dichotomy here with Trump. He presents himself as the peace president, and he's sort of essentially demanded that they give him a Nobel Peace Prize for the wars he stopped. But meanwhile, he's doing some of these things that are very bellicose. And I don't know what the end game is here in my mind. And more than that, I don't even know what President Trump has in mind, what he expects to happen, what he wants to happen.
I told you guys.
Tom, just before you go, just because this idea that these boats are so fast that you can't catch them, I just don't buy it. I've seen the little videos of the boats. I'm not sure they're modified speedboats. They don't look like they're moving that fast at the time. And we are the goddamn U.S. Navy. We can catch any boat, anywhere, anytime that's operating on the surface. So I do not. I know
you don't even buy that explanation.
President said it, but as someone who has spent a little time on the water,
okay, you're skeptical.
Right. Well, theoretically, these boats have to stop at some point, right? Like unload their cargo.
Yeah, and you can only go so far. Anyway, I think it's bullshit. But go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, look, I said last time, I mean, beautiful women and oil are two of Trump's favorite natural resources, and Venezuelans got them both. So we can tell why he's interested in this kind of look. Seriously though, Maduro's a bad guy and has wrecked that country, and so I'm all for putting pressure on him and putting restrictions on him and trying to do whatever we can within the bounds of sort of law and convention to get him out and get somebody else in. The way Trump is going about it, I think, to Carl's point, is contradictory. He's making peace over here with the right hand, with the left hand, he's, indiscriminately bombing these boats. It's not a consistent philosophy. And one that I think raises questions about, again, legality and all of those things. And I certainly don't think that his base is going to support any sort of U.S. military intervention on the ground in Venezuela. I mean, it's not a, tiny little country that, it would require a substantial investment of U.S. forces. And I just I don't see that happening. So I'm not sure exactly
what
you
think he's bluffing, Tom?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what his plan is.
I think that might be what's going on. I think Carl, I think you were onto something, that this CIA thing is a total psyops. I mean, what could be more frightening than to hear that? Oh yeah, I've got CIA operating. What are they doing there? They're fomenting a coup. They are, looking at possible targets for a military strike.
Well, when Venezuela's military brass starts shooting each other, then you'll know that it worked. The psych out.
So it may just be, Tom, a total, psych out operation, and who knows how Maduro responds.
Blowing up the boats is not some sort of psyop. That's an actual kinetic activity that some would say it would be a declaration of war itself. So
yes, right.
I mean, they're operating obviously in international waters and doing illegal.
Do you guys think that the president of the United States even has the constitutional authority to order those boats to be destroyed? I've got questions. It is an act of war, Tom.
I would say it is an act of war, and I don't know.
I'm not sure that national security is enough of a defense to justify, right? That's what the Trump administration is saying, right? This is a national security situation imperative and gives him the authority to make that, make those moves. But
Well, but but again, I'm not questioning the rationale behind it. If the president of the United States went to Congress, gave a speech, and said 75,000, between 75,000 and 90,000 Americans die every year from fentanyl and heroin, most of it brought to this country illegally, and I want a declaration of war against Venezuela, and till they stop, that would then you'd have a vote.
Wouldn't you?
To me, that would be a constitutional.
Okay, but wouldn't you also have to declare
this
war on Mexico
crisis.
and China, because that's where the fentanyl is also coming from?
well,
you're just going to single out Venezuela and.
Well, I'm not proposing any of this, Tom, but I'm saying the president of the United States is focused
World
on
War
III on
Brought to you
Venezuela.
by Carl Cannon.
No, I'm saying the president of the United States is singled out Venezuela, not me. If he went before Congress, then you'd have a vote. If Congress voted to affirm that to me would be constitutional.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but nobody does that anymore.
But
I know.
here's
I'm
actually
the last of the
question
bison.
I have, which is what is it about Maduro that so gets under the president's skin? Because he gets along with other horrible dictators. I mean, he gets along with North Korea.
He has consciously wrecked the economy of his country. That offends Trump, I suspect.
Well, but I mean, there are other
and he's an
that.
accused drug dealer.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
there are other, yeah. But I mean, it's just, it
Does he
seems
not
to
like
me.
his, or are you
I'm not
saying
sure
this?
that-
He has a bad mustache. What else are you? What are you
I
getting
don't
at?
know. It's an honest question. I'm trying to figure out why this guy in particular so gets under Trump's skin. I mean, I know what he's a bad guy. He's a drug dealer. He's a dictator. He's wrecked the economy. And there's got to be an X factor here, Tom. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right.
I honestly don't know. I mean, you never know with Trump. It could be, he may have someone in his orbit, either in the government or personally,
Do you think Marco Rubio just
is Venezuelan or has, yeah. I mean,
Rubio
when I
really
used
hates him.
Let's not just guess. We're on a radio
All
show
right.
here. Yeah.
never stopped us before, Carl.
I know.
Carl's instructed us not to guess, but this next story, I don't know what else we can do. This is about J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and he has some skills that at least I didn't previously know he had. This is according to his latest tax return, just became public. He made, Tom, $1.3 million in gambling income. That's 10%, I believe, of his personal income for the year. Tom, I don't know anyone else who's done that, and I don't know whether to admire him or what to think of this.
Yeah, so
But it's an odd story.
It really is, and it just keeps inviting more and more questions. So the Chicago Tribune had a report today, and they went through his tax returns from 2024, and lo and behold, he declared 1.4 million in income from gambling. And they went through his past tax returns, and this is unprecedented. It had never been in his past tax returns. Any sort of gambling gains, losses, nothing. And so everyone was like, well, hold on a second. Like what, they asked him, and his office said he won playing blackjack in Las Vegas. They didn't say where, they didn't give any details. We don't know if he, slapped down $1 million on a hand of blackjack, or whether he's some sort of, chubby Rain Man who's counting cards or something. We don't know whether this was a one-time thing or whether he might be actually a degenerate gambler. I mean, 1.4 million to win $1.4 million playing blackjack. If you're not making some massive bet, which seems crazy he is a billionaire, so maybe it's not that big of a deal to walk in and put down, $100 grand or $500 grand on a hand or two of blackjack and then walk out. But for normal people, you'd have to play a lot of blackjack, and you'd end up losing a lot of blackjack. You'd end up losing a lot of money before you ended up winning 1.4 million. So more questions, I think, still and we'll see how good the Chicago area press corps is in sort of digging in these details. I'm eager to see where this story leads and what else we can find out about it, because to your point, Andy, it sort of appeared out of nowhere. I mean, it was just like, wait a minute, what? This is craziness.
Well, Andy, you don't develop a gambling habit like he must have
in 2024.
Suddenly, he's not at the age where you suddenly, hey, I think I'll become a high roller gambler. So he's been gambling, one suspects, for years.
I don't guess, Carl. No guessing on this show.
I remember I said I suspect. based on this evidence. And I know something about gambling and taxes that Tom doesn't know. There would be no losses. You can't declare gambling losses. And so again, okay, I'll just say it. My guess is he's lost money in previous years, but if he's a high roller, but that wouldn't show up on your taxes. You only have to report income. And again, that's net income gambling. So it's quite possible that he lost 5 million and won 6.3 million, that he's a real high roller and he plays in these very expensive and elite games.
Like, what is he doing this? He's supposed to be governing the state of Illinois.
Yeah,
Flying off to Vegas for.
I have the same question for you. I have the same question about it. The other part of it that's curious to me is that, so he's worth billions, all of it inherited money. He's
Trust fund,
Nebo baby, but he's worth that much. So as you point out, Tom, a 1.3 million to him, if he's gambling $100,000 a hand, that would be like, you and me get, maybe $60 a hand or something, but it's not. It's all this high. It's this high dollar, and he's.
If you're betting 100, if you're betting 100 grand a hand, Carl, and you get on a little heater.
That's right.
Could you get to 1.4 million pretty quickly?
Sure, you could. But the point is that how does that square with it? He's supposed to be the champion of the working man. I mean, that puts him so out of touch. It just reminds to me. It was a reminder of this guy. He's just a rich billionaire who never did, who basically bought his office, spent hundreds of millions of dollars sliming moderate Republicans, by the way, in primaries, because, where the Trump Republican won, while saying that Trump's an existential threat to America. I mean, he's a cynical guy, the way he spends money on politics. And this just underscores, I'm with Bernie Sanders on this. Let's get the billionaires out of politics.
I did not know that's where that was going to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Andy, do you gamble, and does this make sense to you?
I do not gamble. I've probably been to a casino maybe once or twice in my life where I actually played any game of chance. It's just not something that interests me. But I do think, and this is what I would like to know, is just statistically how much you would have to bet in order to win that amount of money, because it's, again, I'm guessing, but I don't think he went in and played one hand, made him
1.3 million on this one hand.
I have an idea.
Walked away.
I have an idea. I think we should send Carl Cannon out to Vegas for a week and have him investigate this deep investigation, Carl.
My old reporting chops.
And see what happens.
Although I will be checking your expense account very closely, Mr. Cannon.
Anyway, well, it's a fascinating story. We got to find out more about this.
Yeah, we do
in the weeks ahead. Anyway,
let's hope we do.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our program for today. You've been listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth. I'm with Tom and Carl. We'll be back again tomorrow. Hope to see you then.